What's up, everybody? Welcome to News, Games, and More, IGN's daily live news show. I'm Damon Hatfield. I will be your guide for today, Monday, September 28th. And today I'm joined by Sydney Goodman.
Hello.
Destin Legary.
Bam. Hey, everybody.
And Max Scoville is joining us today.
Hey, happy Monday, everybody.
Happy Monday indeed. Lots of exciting little news tidbits to get through today. Some Xbox stuff, next-gen news, the Epic versus Apple lawsuit began arguing their case in court today. That actually started at 9:30 a.m. this morning. I haven't heard an update on that, so we'll try to look into what's going on there. And we've got some movie news to discuss with sequels like Indiana Jones 5 and Avatar 2. Avatar 2 is not something I would normally bring up, but because Max is here, I felt like it's very appropriate.
Avatar.
Let's begin with
the guy besides James Cameron who's looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's cool to have a big budget movie sequel made just for you. But let's begin with Xbox Series X. IGN's own Ryan McCaffrey has an actual Xbox Series X unit that he's been able to test out in his home for, I guess, about a week now. And he's now allowed to share his impressions. It's not a final unit. It's not one that he gets to keep, but it is very, very close to final. So he's able to check out the UI, check out how current gen games are running on the console, get a sense of the loading speed and all that stuff. So Ryan will actually be on this show Thursday to share more of his own thoughts. But we can talk about Ryan's thoughts right now. So I guess first of all, he says this thing is very quiet, even when he's running games like Red Dead Redemption 2, much quieter than the current Xbox One. How are your guys' Xbox Ones and PS4s sounding these days? Sydney, is your Xbox? I mean, because I just know that anytime I play a AAA game on my PS4 Pro, it's ready for takeoff.
Yeah, mine's not sounding too hot. Yeah, there's not more to say. It's very loud. It is very loud, regardless of. I mean, it definitely gets louder if I'm playing a AAA game, but even if I'm playing something that's a little bit less intensive, like Ori, it lets me know that it's working really hard to give me my game.
There is oral evidence that it is working hard to run your game. Max, which PS4 model do you spend most of your time on?
Usually on PS4 Pro, which is mostly pretty well behaved. But my wife was like complaining about the sound when we were playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. Where like if you entered like a large area, it would just be like, yeah, it's a lot.
And Destin, how about you? Or are you doing more PC gaming these days?
Well, yeah, doing PC gaming, but the consoles I've been using a lot, and they're fine. Like honestly, I don't really have any fan issues, but I haven't been playing Remake or anything crazy. The most recent game I've been playing is Mafia. I couldn't talk about it last week, and I played Crysis, the Crysis remaster, for some analysis stuff I'm working on.
You played Crysis on Xbox?
On Xbox and PlayStation, well, I haven't installed PC yet, but yeah, they just did the remaster on Switch, believe it or not, and Xbox and PS4.
Yeah, Crysis is infamous for taxing, the specs of PCs for years. So I would imagine if any game is going to make your Xbox or PS4 be loud, it would be Crysis. But that's not the case that you found?
Nope. No, well, I don't know. I don't really hear it. I don't notice it. So it does not sound like a jet engine or anything taking off. And that's good news.
Side note, how are you finding Mafia?
Mafia is really good. I was very, very surprised about just everything that they did. We put out the first minutes of gameplay and I captured it in 4K 60. And it's just so gorgeous, man. They really spent a lot of time redoing the voice acting, and the character models look excellent. And all of our commenters are saying, this is a movie, IGN. Where's the gameplay? Like, they think it looks that good.
So obviously it looks great. How does it hold up mechanically? Because that's an older game, and
it's totally redone.
Okay.
It's been redone from the ground up, so it holds up mechanically quite well. I think the biggest issue that I started noticing was on the consoles, at least, you would see some like fade in of vehicles that were further out in the distance. It's something they actually did in the original also. I was kind of surprised they didn't refine that a little bit more. But man, playing the PC version on a 3080 is, wow, it's just absolutely astounding what they managed to accomplish.
I never played the original Mafia, so I don't have like a frame of reference, but this sounds like a good way to check it out now on
it's like
current.
It's like Resident Evil. Like they
Whoa.
maintained.
Okay.
I had no idea.
Wow.
I mean, the way they did that remake, right? They
Yeah,
retained the heart of what the game was about, but they modernized all the mechanics, and hopefully that's what they do with that Mass Effect rumored remake.
Oh man, I don't know about that. I don't know that they're really putting that much work into it to like completely remake. I was expecting more of a remastered trilogy.
I hope that's what they do with the Mass Effect remake.
I mean,
what
I would
will
love
they
that too.
actually do?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
I feel like a remastered trilogy is a little more likely. Anyway, getting back to Xbox Series X, Ryan McCaffrey found it boots up from an always-on state almost instantly. I imagine that means sleep mode, and faster than Xbox One X. And the cold boot too, from powering on from being powered off, is also a lot quicker than the Xbox One, taking about 10 to 12 seconds compared to almost a minute for the One X. And so he's also finding out that the 1 terabyte hard drive actually gives you about 802 gigabytes because the system OS is taking up nearly 200 gigs there. Of course, there's the very pricey Seagate 1 terabyte storage expansion slot. I think it's Justin, it's over $200, right? Do you know the exact figure on that?
Yeah, so an interesting point on that. Yes, that is a lot of money, but it is right in line with what is required to get that faster load time. Hopefully those come down in price, but like an M2 drive, it's basically an M2 drive that a lot of PC players are probably familiar with, that has an incredibly fast read-write speed, right? And it's like $10 more than you would get if you were popping one of those into your PC. So yes, it's expensive, but when you look at what you compare it to, like the actual hardware, it's actually right in line with what would be expected.
Yeah. Well, so if you actually have 800 gigs of space to work with, it's very common for games to come in at 100 gigs now. So it's really, maybe you're looking at maybe a little bit more than a handful of games you can actually keep on your drive. Sydney, do you think you'll end up getting that expensive Seagate drive? Because you can also use a cheaper USB external hard drive, but it won't be as fast.
Well,
yeah, I don't know. I want to say no, but I tend to get I don't know if I have that many games downloaded. I think it'll depend on if the number of or the game install sizes go up to the point where if I can keep like 8-ish games on there, then like I'll probably just end up deleting them and re-downloading and kind of shuffling things through that way.
Yeah.
But if game sizes get any bigger and I can have, and I'd say if I can have less than 6 games on my Xbox, then I'll probably end up getting it, which is annoying because like spending another $200 on this generation just sounds like, ugh.
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to have to get new headphones too. And that's like oh my gosh. So yeah, I think I'll end up getting it, but I will reluctantly purchase it.
Yeah. Destin, how about you?
The expandable hard drive, hopefully work will buy me one because I don't want to drop the $200, but ideally, like the caveat to being able to use that USB expandable storage is that will only play games without the enhancements, right? So if you're wanting to play a next gen game, it has to be installed on that hard drive. Like if it's made for Xbox Series X, you need that hard drive space for that specifically.
But I think you can switch it around. Yeah, that was my understanding of it. And correct me if I'm wrong, Destin, but I thought it was like if you had the just like an external hard drive and then you kept next gen games on it, but when you played it, you moved it onto the internal storage, and that was okay.
Yeah.
Is that not okay?
I believe, you could probably do that. That seems like a reasonable thing, but you cannot play them off of that external device because it doesn't write data fast enough, basically.
What I'm curious about is how long it's going to take to transfer from a USB 3 hard drive. Like, let's say you have, I don't know, you want to pop into GTA 5, but you don't want to keep it constantly installed. Like, if you're going to drag and drop it over to your sort of main proprietary Xbox hard drive, like, is that, I mean, it'll be faster than downloading it, but will it be like, incrementally or like, a lot,
I think McCaffrey wrote about that, to be honest, except he was only talking about like backwards compatible games because he didn't do any of his tests with next gen games, but I'm pretty sure he said that it's not like, he didn't seem annoyed by it. He said it was like a reasonable solution.
That's cool. I know one big concern here is that people if they have slow internet or data caps and they don't want to have to like, re-download COD every time they decide to, jump in or whatever. It's
yeah, for sure. Max, we're expecting a similar situation on PS5, right? It's also a terabyte hard drive. You know,
Yeah.
some space is going to need to be set aside for the OS. So you're probably looking at very comparable size restrictions, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's easy when you're seeing these numbers kind of chalked up to be sort of underwhelmed and being like, oh, I can already see myself running out of space. But like again, even really large games are still, you know, you can still fit a few of them on there. And
Yeah.
So
as is true of literally every storage in the history of digital media, it's going to get cheaper, like rapidly.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
not be surprised at all if that was, you know, if we get like a sort of second round of whether they're, you know, Series X Pro or PS5 Pro or whatever, if they bump it up a considerable amount.
Max, to answer your question, a USB 3.0 cable is 5 gigabits per second. So a 65 gigabyte file would take 1 minute, 54 seconds. A 100 gigabyte file would be about 3 minutes to transfer it. Theoretically, has to be
Yeah,
USB 3.0, and we don't know what the interface is with the Xbox. I was sort of curious, all this hard drive talk, and I totally know I'm nerding out about this stuff right now because it's all I've been working on for like a month, and it's just really exciting to me. But do you think that the PS5 is going to have a 825 gigabyte SSD? Do you think that it's actually a 1 terabyte SSD, and they're just marketing the correct amount of storage that you're going to have as opposed to having an oddly sized SSD? Or should we just expect to lose 100 of those gigs and we're actually getting 725 gigs of usable space? Because they've been so silent about things like that on the PS5 side.
I mean, that really is this console race here. Is like Microsoft's like sending out demo units, and Sony's like, we're not even going to tell you how big the hard drive is.
Yeah.
I hope I hope that it's one of those things where they're you know, internally discounting however much, like if they're advertising the usable space, that's a lot more fun than finding out surprise like there's a big chunk of your hard drive already taken up the second you turn it on.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that said though, I'm super excited about this. Like the fact that we're basically presumably going to see like a massive cut down on load times and being able to suspend multiple games is like, because I realize that suspending a game, putting a game in sleep mode is like probably my favorite thing of the last console generation, and it makes it hard to go back to anything earlier to be like, oh, you can't just like pick up immediately where you left off.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, even on my PS4 Pro, it is just booting up the system and getting into a game it's at least a couple minutes, right? So it's not nothing, especially like this over the weekend we were babysitting our nieces, an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. They wanted to see some video games, so it's like, okay, let's turn on the PlayStation, let's show you some Spelunky, and you sit them down on the couch and then they're like waiting, and there's just a loading screen. You're waiting, and that tests the patience of 8 and 5-year-olds for sure. Sorry, Sydney, you were gonna say something?
Well, okay, you might have been saving me by us starting to talk at the same time, because this might completely expose either my lack of like good memory or just my understanding of how things work during the Xbox 360 generation. But couldn't you buy, you know how at the top the hard drive was at the top, and I feel like at my house we had a bunch of extras laying around and we would just kind of swap them through and we used that as external storage. Does anybody remember how much those were? Because I mean, they had to be very specific in that it had to fit on the top of the Xbox. So I'm curious if it was that much more expensive. Like that was kind of its proprietary hard drive in a way back then. Yeah.
So that was just a weird casing for it. I totally had one of those, or I popped mine open and I put in like a spare laptop hard drive. And you had to do some weird shit, like you had to, you had to like bend like a piece of metal around or put like a piece of tape on it so you could pull it in and out. But it was definitely like, it was kind of janky, but they did have those dedicated, those weird like big gray plastic ones.
Yeah.
I think that was,
I remember that.
Yeah.
I want to
say a regular hard drive though, so.
Yeah, it differed based on your storage space, but it was not as expensive. I think those were 5,400 RPM drives as opposed to like this new PCIe tech that M2s utilize. So I think they managed to keep them around 100, but I couldn't find anything just Googling it.
Yeah, I don't really remember. I just remember, but I think we might have had so many because we had so many like red ring of death situations and we just would keep the top before we sent it back to Microsoft. But I don't know.
For sure. Max, I'm assuming you pre-ordered a PlayStation 5. Did you also pre-order an Xbox?
No, I didn't, and someone's gonna get mad at me for that. But like, I mean, I'm gonna get one eventually. I'm really excited about everything we're hearing about it. But like, as of right now, it's like I can only play one console at a time, and you know, there's not like a deluge of must-have launch games coming out the gate. But I feel like I can wait. You know.
Of course. That is very reasonable. Sticking with Xbox, but looking a little bit further ahead to the next Xbox after Series X and S, there is apparently plans to keep churning out new consoles over there at Microsoft. Phil Spencer gave an interview with Yahoo Finance, confirmed Microsoft is still planning on developing dedicated gaming hardware, even though services like xCloud, Xbox Cloud Gaming, Google Stadia, and Amazon Luna are changing the ways the world plays video games. He said, just like in video, just like in music, it's not that streaming has cut off device innovation. I think we'll continue to see that, and that's absolutely what we're planning for. I think using video and music as examples is a little bit interesting because video and music are the areas where consumers have totally given up dedicated hardware for that. Am I reading this wrong?
I think the key difference is if your song skips or if your show has to buffer for a second, you're not going to throw your controller across the room because you got killed by something. Like, I think there's definitely going to be, if they do crack that sort of streaming experience, it's going to be really appealing to maybe a more casual audience. It's going to be great to just sort of being able to jump in and jump out, but it's also going to totally depend on the type of game and the type of gamer. I think there's no matter what, there's always going to be some group of people who want, the hard copy first and foremost, whether for personal ownership or just for the experience.
Yeah, I think so too. Sydney, are you open to the idea of a streaming future where you don't need to have a console under your TV?
I am open to it, but I think as long as consoles are around, even if that is an option, I will probably still have a console just because I like that. Like I like physical media, and I like owning things. Even now, I mean, we have a server that Alex built where anytime we buy a DVD, we always make sure, or Blu-ray, we always make sure it has a digital copy, and we always put the digital copy in our home digital streaming library, which is streaming off of our own server, so that we know we have it, which is nerdy to the nth degree, and I probably wouldn't have personally done that, but Alex really likes doing that, so I'm very happy we have it though. And I just can't imagine not actually having it. Even now, I own every hard copy of Halo, even though I could just play Halo 5 digitally. I don't know, maybe that I feel very backwards saying that because I like being a new adopter, an early adopter of tech, but I'm still living in the past. I don't know.
I'm right there with you. I watched Indiana Jones last night for the hell of it, and I put in the Blu-ray because I wanted to see it. I think you get good quality streams, but there's still it's noticeably better quality watching on physical media.
Yeah, that's true. I'm also just a huge sucker for the extra features in special edition Blu-rays and director's commentary and stuff. And that's something you just don't get in streaming services, or they haven't figured out a way to offer that in streaming services as of today. Destin, have you messed with Stadia at all?
Yeah, I don't like it. I'll just be straightforward. I didn't like that. I didn't like PS Now very much. Game Pass, where you actually pay a low amount and can just download it, does wonders. I hope that the new version of PS Now, or what was it marketed as, where you're going to be able to download PS4 games and just play them.
The PlayStation Plus collection, I believe.
I think that's the way to go, and I think Sony's being smart, kind of coming around and saying, okay, streaming isn't quite there yet. Let's do this next generational jump. But I'm really happy to hear that Xbox is going to keep doing consoles though.
Yeah.
It's not too surprising. I was going to say Bloodborne is hard enough when there's not a stream lag.
Yeah, exactly. I think most of our audience agrees with all of you. But let's move on off of Xbox to the Epic versus Apple legal battle. A hearing took place today. It began at 9:30 a.m. I haven't heard any updates. This all began when Epic implemented a direct pay system into Fortnite on the App Store. This meant that any V-Bucks purchases sent money straight to Epic, bypassing the Apple App Store, ensuring Apple does not get their cut. Naturally, Apple didn't take kindly to this, and the company removed Fortnite from the App Store. In response, Epic filed a lawsuit against Apple. Now, in our article, we wrote, public opinion seems largely on Epic's side, but that seems a little bit... I'm not sure what they're basing that on. And at least in the comments section, the comments were not so sure. One of the top comments is from If Master One saying, imagine renting a house, not paying your rent, then you sue your landlord after he kicks you out for not paying rent. That's how I see this debacle, though I don't really care for either side. I think the IGN audience tends to have a lot of anti-Epic sentiment. One, because of Fortnite, Fortnite being viewed as a game for kids, so they're very dismissive of that. And then also the drama that happens with the Epic Game Store and exclusivity for certain games in that store. But I don't know. Do we? How much do we actually care about this legal battle? And do we come down on either side? Sydney, do you feel a little bit more sympathetic with either Epic or Apple in this case?
It's hard to be sympathetic with these like
That's true.
giant companies.
That's true.
But I don't know. I think it's difficult because I feel like it is using, and I don't know enough about apps. This could be totally not correct if I'm missing some major information on how apps work and how that works in terms of being on like an iPhone operating system. But I do feel like if it's on there, well, I mean, does Xbox take like a cut of third-party games that are compatible with an Xbox? Do they?
They take a cut of all purchases made through like their store.
But like if I bought like, well, I guess not anymore. I was gonna say if I bought a Bethesda game a year ago, and would any of that money go to Microsoft if I played it on Xbox? But I bought it from Best Buy.
If it's the Xbox copy, yes, Microsoft takes a cut of that.
Okay, then to me, it feels kind of like par to the course if Apple's taking a cut of sales that are happening on their devices.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably oversimplifying it, but I guess that's what Epic's doing, is challenging the status quo. I think that it's just bigger than like Apple is the only like operating system that is doing this, and like how dare they? Every other operating system is like an open market and everyone's just having a good time making all their money, but it doesn't sound like that's the case.
Yeah. No, Apple created the App Store. They set their own rules for the App Store. One of the rules is that they take a cut of all sales for that come through apps. Epic bypassed that by putting, instead of buying V-Bucks from the App Store, you could buy them from within Fortnite, and then all the money would just go to Epic instead of Apple. So since that broke the terms of service, Apple was able to kick them off the App Store. So I don't know where the court's going to come down on this. I guess I'm just curious if any of us feel like either side is more in the right. Destin, how about you?
I think I sort of see the point on both sides. Like I can't remember what the name of the app is specifically, but you can't use the Xbox streaming app on the iPhone right now, for example, because of this policy that they have. So there are some barriers that are forcing a lot of developers to develop in the way that they would like to for the platform. So yeah, I think something needs to change here, but I would have to read more specifically about what the battle is exactly and what they want to see changed exactly. Apple does take a hefty cut from developers when they purchase stuff on the App Store, though.
Yeah, I want to say it's 30%.
Yeah, I believe it is.
Sorry, I know you're going to ask Max, but before you ask Max, I'm curious about this. Do you think that Epic's decision to do this is informed by the fact that they have their own, like the Epic Games Store, and that their cut with developers, from what I've read, seems to be a little bit more friendly towards developers than maybe Apple is now? So they're kind of like, well, we run a store and like we don't screw people this hard. Like, what's your deal, Apple?
I think it's more like I'm sure all app developers would rather not pay Apple that 30% from their sales, and I think Epic thinks they're big enough to challenge Apple because they've got Fortnite, and maybe they are. I don't know.
Honestly, I know it's like it's one of those like whoever wins we lose type of things, but like, and we want to get mad at Epic because they're, too big and too evil or whatever. But I'm so sick of Apple doing this kind of stuff. Like again, unlike another sort of tangential thing, like if you want to get, if you want to buy a Kindle book on an iPhone, like through the Kindle app, you have to open up the browser and manually go to Amazon's website and then buy it digitally there. You can't just buy it from within the Kindle app because of some weird, trickery.
Is that why that's like that?
Yeah, because Apple does this stuff all the time.
Annoying.
It's super
the same
annoying.
Thing with Audible.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's like, I don't know if it's exactly the same logic as the Fortnite stuff, but it definitely seems kind of in the same ballpark. And it's totally an Apple thing. And they're just like such a massive, huge, like they got valued at like $1 trillion. Like they're just like such a, massive, gigantic company. And like, I guess like it's weird to be like rooting for Epic in this situation because they're also a massive, gigantic company, but like they don't have to go to war over this, and it's kind of like, I think it was definitely petty of them to being like, you know, blasting propaganda within Fortnite to be like, Apple's bad, but like, also that's got to be super annoying if you're like a, you know, an 8-year-old who wants to play Fortnite on your iPad or whatever, and then suddenly it's not working or whatever.
Yeah, Epic's definitely trying to position themselves as the underdog here, and it just seems like the App Store is such a huge platform for all mobile apps, and then of course Epic, such a huge gaming company with Fortnite. It seems like these two companies could have worked this out privately without making it such a huge public affair. But I don't know. Hopefully, we'll get some updates for how that court hearing went later on this week. Before we go, let's talk about some movie news. Got an updates on Indiana Jones 5. You may have heard earlier this year, James Mangold stepped in. He's going to be directing this movie. Steven Spielberg stepped down. Apparently, that's because nobody could agree on what to do with the script. And although it seems like maybe putting a new director on that movie isn't really going to solve that problem, because I don't know how Indiana Jones 5 is going to work in the first place. But the former screenwriter, David Koepp, explained to Den of Geek, it was just very hard to have everybody come together and have all the elements, Stephen, Harrison Ford, the script, and Disney, come together at once, and it didn't. When James Mangold came in and Stephen stepped down, that was a pretty logical breaking point. And he's talking about himself stepping away from the film as well. So Indiana Jones 5 is currently set for a July 29th, 2022 release. This is a bad idea, right? Even though James Mangold is a great director. Max, what do you do with Indiana Jones 5?
Just let it go. Just let it go. Like maybe, I mean, if you have to do something with Indiana Jones, like reboot it. But the fact that they're trying to rebuild this or do this again, like Harrison Ford is like, he's like 75, I think.
No, he's gonna be 80 in 2022.
Just let the man sit still. Let him hang out on the porch. Stop trying to throw him off trucks and have him do car chases and ride horses and stuff. Like, let him be. Like, he's a grouch as it is. Like, no, I mean, I mentioned just watching Indiana Jones last night. I'm actually in the middle of reading The Making of Indiana Jones, which covers the first, all 4 movies, I guess, because they've actually made those. And like, I mean, I'm no fan of Crystal Skull, but like looking at what was going on there, they were clearly sort of trying to do kind of a proto Force Awakens. They were trying to do like a victory lap that was paying homage to the original movies, and nobody liked it. It was just everyone got very mad at it, and I just let it be. Just leave it alone, you know. Like, I don't know what it's got to be. Just such a sunken cost fallacy at this point. Like, and James Mangold is like, he's a decent enough director. Like, Logan was cool, but like, what I don't like, Indiana Jones as a character is so just at his core tied to both Harrison Ford and Steven Spielberg that doing a movie without Steven Spielberg involved, with a sort of 80-year-old Harrison Ford is just kind of like, just let him go. Just leave it alone. It's fine. We can move on.
I mean, do you think it's like, could they do like a James Bond thing where it's just another Indiana Jones story with a new actor playing the role? No, Destin says no.
Absolutely not.
Destin banned that.
I got to put my foot down somewhere. That's not, no. I refuse to allow this.
Why not?
It's Indiana. It's Harrison Ford.
It's Harrison Ford.
They probably said that about the first time they had a new Bond.
Hey, do you remember that movie they made about Han Solo that didn't have Harrison Ford in it?
I liked Solo.
I did too. I did not like Aaron Reich.
Yeah,
like he was like I spent the whole movie just being like, oh, just so close, just almost. Yeah.
It's weird casting. No, I don't know. Yeah. I think my biggest thing is if they don't want to let like Indiana Jones as a franchise like lay its rest, then I think they need a different Indiana Jones. Sorry, Harrison Ford. He just seems so grumpy every time. Like every time I see him on screen, he just seems like he does not want to be there. I think it would be different if he like actually was having a good time or it like he was better at pretending like he was having a good time. But like whenever I watch him, I'm just like, this man does not want to be here.
Yeah. I mean, what's so stupid is that it's missing the point of why Indiana Jones existed in the first place, which was because George Lucas was like, I miss those old serial adventure movies with like cliffhangers where dudes would, do horse stunts and jump off of trucks and stuff. And like, I want to see that, but done with modern filmmaking techniques. And he sat down on the beach, like literally right after Star Wars came out and was like, hey, Steven, let's build a sandcastle and talk about this crazy character I thought up. And the whole thing was rooted in this nostalgia for like a form of cinema that was kind of, had been kind of disappeared. And that was for, 40 years prior to, 30, 40 years prior to 1979. And it's like now we're 40 years out from when they first made Indiana Jones, and like theoretically we should have some young up and coming director come along being like, they don't make Steven Spielberg movies like they used to. I want to make some of those. But instead we're just dragging out this Indiana Jones corpse and trying to get, one more ride out of it.
Well, that was the promise of J.J. Abrams at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So hear me out. What if they did another Indiana Jones with Harrison Ford, but everything else was also aged? So like they used old horses and like everything was like aged up to be proportionate with how old Indiana Jones is now. So it was kind of like old Indiana Jones, but like everything's old.
You're sick in the head. That's such a warped concept.
I think it'd be fun to watch.
An age-appropriate love interest for him.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know. Yeah. Hollywood will no longer let our action stars retire. They trotted out Rambo last year. You got old Terminator now. Keanu Reeves is probably going to have to make John Wick movies for the next 20 years now.
Question on that. How do you guys feel about Balboa? Because I actually really like that transition where Rocky sort of became the trainer.
That was done well. That was handled well.
Yeah. That's what they could do with Indiana Jones.
I mean, that's what they tried to do with Shia LaBeouf's character in Crystal Skull. They were like, we've got to have a passing of the torch. And everyone's like, what are these CGI monkeys doing here? I hate this.
Exactly. All right, Max. Their moment has come to talk about Avatar. Avatar 2 has wrapped filming.
Boy.
And apparently, Avatar 3 is also almost done filming. They're filming down in New Zealand. And I love that this quote came from an interview between James Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold was he was the interviewer. It's great. What's the original Avatar was like a cultural touchstone because being probably the best use of 3D in a movie. Max, do you actually answer this for me? Do you like this that movie genuinely or ironically?
It's like a little bit of both. I think James Cameron is a phenomenal, fascinating filmmaker, and I'm really excited to see. Like, I don't really care that much about the lore of Avatar, but it does have like weird like undersea dinosaur cats in the jungle, and it has like a giant mech fight at the end, which like James Cameron, love him or hate him, that dude is really good at putting mech fights in movies, better than pretty much any other American director. Like, so that's fun. Like, I like the giant robots. It's good, but he's also always pushing the boundaries of what you can do with filmmaking. And I mean, with the first Avatar, it was doing hybrid CGI and mocap and cutting edge special effects, and also doing really good 3D. I can't imagine going to the movie theater in 2022 and putting something on my face, whether or not it's been disinfected. Like, I just don't really see that being a thing.
That's such a good point. Yeah. Avatar 2 is currently slated for December 16th, 2022. A mere 6 months after Indiana Jones 5. How no one's going to want to put 3D glasses on their face anymore.
No, I mean, the whole Avatar thing is like, this is also the first time I believe in history that it's 4 sequels.
Yeah.
That like
Avatar 5.
Yeah. We've seen this with like, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi were a 2-picture deal. And then we got like the Back to the Future sequels, and Peter Jackson did all the Lord of the Rings and Hobbits, but like no one's ever done 4. No one's ever come out and be like, I'm going to make 4 more movies set in this one universe that did really well.
Yeah, I don't know. James Cameron used to have, he did more than just sequels, right? He did the Abyss, he did True Lies, interesting stuff like that. Cindy,
Avatar's whole thing was the VR though, but without that, and like, are they going to let you wear that cheap Facebook VR helmet or a PSVR and experience the movie? Would that work? Because
it's going to be BYO VR.
Yeah.
Cindy, did you see Avatar in 3D in the theaters?
Oh, I did. My dad even 3D TV so that we could properly experience Avatar when it came to release. And I think we did it once.
Cool.
Don't like this movie. I'm sorry, Max. Like, I just straight up don't like it.
I completely understand why you wouldn't like it. Have you seen the director's cut where he does shots?
No, I have not watched the director's cut.
It's great. It's really fun. It shows you why they wanted to get off Earth so much, because it sucks on Earth. And they were like, let's go to the planet with the cats.
I mean, I'm happy for fans that want more of this, but I mean, we keep talking about. I am confused how like they think that each sequel is going to be this huge money-making machine. And it feels like this thing that I just like don't understand, and that's okay if I don't understand it, but like, did I miss the boat? Like, did I miss something? Because even the fact that Avatar has like its own section in Disney World and like it's getting all these things greenlit, like, am I what's wrong? Because I just don't get it.
No, I don't think so. I think these are 4 sequels that not very many people were asking for.
I mean, now it's like Disney money, you know? Like when it was under Fox, I was like, this could go either way, but I feel like Disney's just going to will it into existence because they get the profits off of the theme park too. And there's also the video game that's in the works that the Division 2 studio is doing. What are they called? I forget.
Oh yeah. Well, it is a Ubisoft game.
Yeah.
Massive division.
Massive. There we go. Yeah. So that's I mean, it's also having 4 sequels released back to back is a great way to have a movie tie-in that's a games as a service that actually, but that all kind of depends on people wanting to be interested in Avatar, you know?
Yeah, exactly. 2022 is a long ways off, or feels a long ways off at this point. A lot can happen between now and then. We're much that's further than we are from the beginning of 2020, and that's as much as
Simon's batteries died.
Well, you all sound like you're bringing up to me too. So let's wrap this thing up. Why don't we? Thanks for hanging out with us on this Monday afternoon. This is News, Games, and More. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, same time, same place, discussing the big topics of the day. Thank you to Sydney, Destin, Max, and to Red working behind the scenes. We'll see you tomorrow. Everybody have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.